Hello there, good morning. Welcome to Sunrise Daily from this part of the world. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Speaking of this part of the world, it is a beautiful morning from here in Lagos.
Yeah.
I'm Kayode Kikule.
Oh, also know how it is in Abuja.
Yeah.
I'm Ayo Makini, good morning and welcome. You were expecting something else?
Yeah,
Come
like
on, guys.
you could do it. Oh, you did it. You did it before. You can do it today.
Well, I think that's the angle from which the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy is coming.
He can do it.
Well.
Or he's trying to do it.
He's trying to do it, or he's planning to do it. You know, when this whole BVN thing started, people were wondering what in the universe is it about? You know, perhaps the plan then was to track illicit financial flows. But how successful were we with that? You know, perhaps that's another question that one is asking right now. Did it achieve desired goal? Did it do what it was intended to do? But now that the Minister of Digital Economy and Communication is saying, we're going to replace BVN with NIN. I'm wondering, okay, so what happens to BVN?
Good question. Good question. But honestly, we have a lot of these things. We said it time and again. You have your passport, which has serial number, by the way. You have your license, which has a serial number.
You have to put that in.
You have your, I'm just saying, a lot of digits. You have your INEC PVC, or what's that thing? The permanent voter card.
Yeah.
It has its serial number as well. And I could go on and on with
even your NIN has its serial number.
Exactly. So the numbers, we're not short of those serial numbers. But the argument from the minister is the fact that, well, so you have BVN and NIN. NIN has more weights, especially because he has a backing from the law, as it were, compared to the BVN, which is just a policy. So in terms of how long this will last, how long it will stand the test of time, he was saying, well, the NIN will stand the test of time compared to the BVN. So that's on the one hand. I'm wondering how that will happen, the whole transition process. Because when you go to the field where these registrations are taking place, I mean, we have reported this time and again, how inefficient the process seems, how a lot of people are complaining about. I mean, they have to pay for mistakes that weren't their mistakes in the first place. But what strikes me is the fact that the ministry is trying to liberalize this whole registration process such that we can have centers, mini centers, so you don't have to go to the offices. You can go to a center close to you. But the challenge is the fact that those who are meant to handle these things, some of them NGOs and organizations, are planning to pay those who will work for them 30 naira per NIN generated. 30 naira.
Whoa. That is something
Now,
else.
multiply that by how many?
Don't forget, these centers are not centers that people will throng to because they're not the well-known centers. They're not, for example, like the center in Ikeja. Imagine a center in your estate, you're not even aware of it. So how many people can these workers enroll successfully? They have to do publicity themselves, by the way, so that they can get more people. So imagine, I mean, in a day you do 20 or 25, 30 times 20, how much is that? 600. And you work 6 days a week. So, we're trying to solve a problem, but I think we're creating another one. So if the ministry can look into that and liaise with those organizations so we don't mess this up in the process, because what you get eventually is people who don't exactly understand how to use computers doing that thing, because a graduate might not want to do that job. So you have people who don't even understand that, enrolling you, and you know what will come out of that.
But in spite of all of these efforts that the authorities are making, I'm just keep asking myself, look, what do they really want to achieve, with these things? Because if it says, well, because this one is backed by the policy, this one is by the law, look, I don't know if that cuts it, because it depends on the objectives. I saw a data, I think it was ascribed to the World Bank, 2019 data or 2018 data, and said that only about 40% of Nigerians are banked.
Yes.
So what are you trying to achieve?
And that's
if you're saying link your BVN or replace the BVN with the NIN, trying to tell CBN now, well, that's a policy. Yeah, the CBN can make policy for the banking sector. They can. But
the idea of the BVN, my apologies, the idea of the BVN was to track financial flows.
Yeah.
You have 10 accounts. All of them need to be linked to a bank verification number so that we can know it's you. that is a way of tracking how money goes. How successful has that been over the years needs to be checked so that we know that, okay, this policy worked for as long as it did. The fact that it's a policy or the fact that it's backed by law, well, the argument might be neither here nor there, or here or there, depending on who is looking at it. But
or here and there.
Exactly. How successful was that BVN policy in dealing with the issue of illicit financial flows?
So we need to check it and see what was the stats before the BPN came up.
Exactly.
What is the stats now?
Exactly.
About those,
now, secondly, there is a government plan, federal government plan, to centralize all data.
Yep.
All these ones that you mentioned now.
I just listed it.
your BVN, your passport, your driver license, your international passport, and all those things all ought to come under one umbrella. Perhaps that's part of the goal of this national identity number. Guaranteed. I mean, that's fine. But then has the communication begun with all ministries, departments, and agencies at the various tiers of governance in Nigeria? Because the point you're making, the validity of the point you're making is it a long-term plan? Is it a long-term thinking? Have we thought it through to the point that in another 5 years or 10 years, we're not going to look back and say, we made a mistake?
And besides, look, what do people need to present to get the name? Because, look, don't let on foreigners, we're having challenges now with influx of people who are not even investment, because that's at the lowest ebb for a while now in Africa. Those who are coming into the country and killing people who will say that they are not Nigerians. Mm-hmm. What's the guarantee that they might as well just go and get that name? And then because somebody has a name, he's a Nigerian?
I think the good side to this is, so since we've seen rates of kidnappings, right? I mean, there's communication with the family. You have to use a mobile phone. So eventually, if this succeeds, getting everybody enrolled, into NIN, then every mobile phone is meant to be attached to a national identification number. So I want to believe that this will help in tracking, these kidnap cases and these numbers, because one person could actually get like 20 SIM cards before now. So now
I think how was the maximum? 7? You can get 7.
7 to
there are ways. I mean, people have been finding ways around it. That's why we have to do this right now. So hey.
But I also I think it would be a good idea. Remember they had the conditional cash transfer. Yeah. They had all the sort of schemes to empower people. So if they're coming up with a name now, can we just make it a national social security number? Nigerians deserve a social security number. Nigerians deserve social security, for crying out loud. Because we complain about the veracity of the data, authenticity of those data that they use in distributing all of those, what do they call them now?
Relatives?
Whatever it is that they distribute. So people want to know now. So if I get this name, I don't just want to have a name for the sake of having name and identify me. We need to, because if you have this name now, will there be an excuse tomorrow for government to say, well, we don't have data to distribute to distribute whatever to Nigerians? There will be no more excuses. I stand corrected. So perhaps it's a good thing to get the name. But after that,
what next?
We need to now get social security to every Nigerian. It's not enough to just tax.
Do you need another number after your national identity number?
No way.
And the BVN was meant to be the social security number, but
it's
then now
supposed to be.
So hope it works.
So there you go.
But my apologies, Chimelin. I think there is something that you have said that we all need to, agree to. That is the fact that government has said, let's get it in, national identity number. What is the objective? Let it be clear.
Yeah.
Now, someone sent me a link this morning or last night to verify whether or not it is authentic. And I checked the URL, I knew it wasn't authentic, saying that this, if you want to register in the secret of your home or in the privacy of your home, go to this link. And that's one, people are going to just tap on that link. I don't know how many millions of people are going to tap on it before they know it's a hoax, and just get their own data to be used for whatever nefarious purposes. So government needs to, from time to time, come up with information to educate people about how to go about this thing. Now, the next phase for telcos is the telcos can now register you for national identity number, not just to link you to existing name. to link your number, you can now register for a
there's
number.
some centers where you can do that already with the telcos.
200, part of those people that you talked about, 203 centers, 203 licensees that government has put out there. So government needs to come out from time to time to educate Nigerians about the process of that. And how do you know a verified center? How do you know the one that is fake? That's one. Secondly, okay, so what are the benefits of this thing? Why must I get it? Beside this scaremongering that went ahead of it, that's created super spreaders for COVID-19. What are the benefits for the people?
Well, we need to have social security with those numbers.
And please pay them
Government
naira.
Exactly. Government now needs to leverage on that data and use it as a basis. Yes. Gone are the days, or gone will be those days where they tell us, we don't have data to do some of these things. Now they will have all this data.
Abundance of data.
Because if they keep targeting banks, bank finances, pocket, oh, come on. And all these policies, get to the banks anyway. No, I mean, these are policies you see every day. Yeah. We see them every day. So you keep asking, so to what end? Everybody needs to know what is the ultimate intention. So we can all see it and measure it and be on the same page. I think that's how you can get some of good results. So I reckon. Well, we might as well go ahead and delve into what some of the dailies are reporting this morning.
I mean the data that's already are in the papers?
Let's collect the data.
Yeah. Well, look at The Guardian, for instance. Now, another form of registration and membership, getting to know people. And sometimes after getting all this data, are you still going to tell me you can identify that person who's out there on the streets? So all those CCTV cameras that we put in different parts of the country, do they still work? So after getting the name, can you identify somebody whose image is seen on the CCTV? The police is looking for some people that they can't find them. So, oh boy.
Maybe we should even start with the data of the police. Go ahead.
Look at this Guardian, The Guardian this morning. Trouble ahead as APC reviews membership nationwide. Okay, you might wonder, why would there be trouble ahead? It's against party constitution, says Oshomole. Whoa. Oshoba calls for emergency caucus meeting. Fayemi Oyegun Adebayo defend exercise. Akonde spoke our mind, says Lagos party chief. Others disagree. Kwara youths allege exclusion, manipulation of process. Rivers members divided along factional lines, and it goes on. Senate fears ethno-religious war, famine. Schedules fresh debate on insecurity. They've had several before. In fact, the president of the Senate, alongside, I think, Senator, I can't remember his other name, was talking about how when they used to be on the other side as leadership in the Senate, they used to say loud and clear then something was wrong with security. And now that he's on the other side, sitting on the seat of the president of the Senate, Senator Olubin was saying, look, we need to do the same thing. If the president won't come to us, we should go to him. We should help him because some things are going on wrong. And it's our duty to speak up as party members and not look the other way or turn a blind eye. And speaking about Senate, all of this data that they're getting from Nigerians, would it be a bad idea for Senate and National Assembly to update their own system such that when they vote on certain bills, Nigerians need to know these things? These are your representatives.
I thought that was in the works.
No way.
We just went cold.
I think the works, whoever's in charge of that works. Like works. They seem to have gone on holiday because that is not happening as we.
Is that another abandoned project now? Because it's important.
Yeah. That's the way it works. No, we shouldn't just say, oh, that democracy, that democracy. If you're going to look at those things, look at holistically. What works, what is good for the people, not just for the leaders.
Well, take a look at the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. It leads with the statement from the Vice President saying, we must prosecute arrested bandits and kidnappers to show justice. I think we largely spoke on that yesterday to serve as a deterrent. And take a look at the riders. Once community policing strengthened, revalidate his APC members, or membership rather, in Ikene. Oshomole faults APC membership revalidation exercise. So we've seen the president, the vice president,
someone going to go to court to stop it?
Oh dear.
It's still going on.
I thought the agreement was to drop all litigations in the party.
Well,
okay, maybe not to. You could start another. You could drop.
Then.
That was then, but
this is a fresh matter.
Okay, so you can. I see. So it's on page 2 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning, and you see the governor of Lagos State revalidating his membership. I like the fact that the president has 001 the vice president also in his
002?
area. No, 001 as well, because he's the number one person in his place.
So wherever you are,
so if you're
the
governor
location
and you
to be
go
001.
001, and then there'll be a 007, of course.
I was going to ask, who will be 007?
Well, hopefully that 007 can help in this whole bandits palaver, because right on top of the nameplate, you see bandits killed 23 in Kaduna. It's 23, and this is across different areas in Kaduna State.
In one state.
Yeah, this is not opportunistic anymore. This is a trend.
And this is coming, against the backdrop of what the governor of Kaduna has said, that as far as he is concerned, dialoguing with these bandits is a no-go area. But then reference the meeting of the northern governors where they said, they're going to use the carrot and stick approach. The question then is, at what point do we use what? If we have to dialogue with these bandits, for God's sake, do we even check the dictionary meaning of bandits?
That's interesting, because our constitution does not quite recognize bandits. You have robbers, kidnapping, and the rest, and across the laws and acts. But bandits, you not see that term. So when it comes to prosecution, you identify the person as a bandit.
You can't arrest a bandit.
And you see the vice president say, we must prosecute arrested bandits. And you check the meaning of bandits, and you see, well, bandits aren't meant to be carrying all these sophisticated weapons. So it's a lot, really.
So can you call them for what they are?
Yeah.
Terrorists?
Yeah.
Criminals?
Robbers,
criminals.
So, let's use terms. When we're using hoodlums at that time, so you realize hoodlums is not really
political correctness, I guess. But look, it is what it is. Everybody can see that.
It's a lot, really, on the front page. It's a lot, and there's a back page story for you as well. Raw hints at Igalo's return to Eagles. He plays for Al Shabaab FC now.
Yeah, he debuted with a good goal.
Oh yeah. So that's Nigerian Tribune.
The Daily Trust newspaper also talking about insecurity. Here is the angle. Quit order to herders. Northern governors confirm reprisal threats. Now, this isn't the kind of thing that we want to see on the front
Well, the thing,
page.
first of all, is too broad-based. They've explained to us that they didn't ask all herders to leave. They only said, look, the criminal elements have got to be dealt with.
It was predicated on the violence, the kidnapping, the raping, and the rest. So.
Cause and effect. They were trying to address that. So it's not generic, as you may believe with the theme.
Guys, do you know that as far back as 1964-65, there were 417 grazing reserves in the north alone? All of them went under. There is a law called the Grazing Reserves Act of 1964. Northern states. What happened to all of them? As at that year, we had something in the region of 6.4 million hectares of land for grazing. Where did they all go?
Desertification, lack of policy continuity.
Let's not go down that because you keep going on and on.
Honestly.
There's so many things you want to find out what happened to it, but the solutions are not far-fetched.
Yeah.
They're not rocket science.
Anyway,
it's easy to solve.
Here's another one right under the nameplate, among others. Nigerians react as FG alerts on fuel price increase. Is it fuel price increase? The landing cost just rose to 180 naira. And then what's going to
So it all adds up eventually. Oh, gosh.
And then right below the pictures you see there, FG to complete Kano Maradi Railway project by 2023. That story is on page 19. Part of the things that, the way these things come out sometimes is like, what exactly is happening? Because it would be good for people to understand what really are the objectives that government is trying to pass across. But then the details are on the inside pages. That's the Daily Trust this morning. Mark.
Well, if we could quickly look at New Telegraph, you see this there. Federal government to Nigerians brace up for petrol price increase. So that's the lead story. Yes, you just pointed that out on the paper you reviewed, Ayo. Just last week, I think I bought for 159. 2 days ago, I bought for 163. And just yesterday, we heard news that the landing cost was 180. And something occurred to me. I said, I'm going to take my medicine like a woman. Because, yes, I've always advocated for pump price increase, and not pump price, but deregulation. Now, I do not know if this is what we have right now, if this is how it's supposed to work, and what it is that we're doing to ensure that eventually we're able to produce in-house and the price is able to come down to a level where a lot of Nigerians can afford. And what we're doing right now to cushion the effect, apart from, say we're, what are we doing now? Removing tariff or reducing tariff on the importation of cars, which has absolutely no effect on the price of petrol. But that's the lead story on the front page of New Telegraph. Federal government Nigerians brace up for petrol price increase, which means an increase in transport fares as well. TUC, we're bearing needless pain from government. You also see this there, COVID-19. Banks issue new conditions of service to staff. It's on page 5. Perhaps the CBN would also be looking at the new terms of condition that has been issued to staff to ensure that, it's fair and favorable. You see that INEC decries lower voter turnout in recent polls is also there. Car COVID leaders bicker over vaccine acquisition. Dangote Wigwe, how we secured 1 million doses. Boa says, you're petty, playing politics with lives. Page 4 is where you see the story. I saw that yesterday, Kakovi denying that he got 1 million doses. Meanwhile, Boa had it everywhere. We've secured 1 million doses. We're willing to secure 5 million more, But you might want to see details of the story on page 4 of the paper. Let's leave it there for New Telegraph.
Let's fight with the big boys. Taking a look at Vanguard this morning. Labour, CSOs kick as FG plans fresh fuel price hike. Petrol price rising by 8.2% as Bonny Light hits $59.46 per barrel. Be ready to bear pains on high petrol cost, FG tells Nigerians. Nigerians can't take another hike, Labour. Look, Labour, Nigerians, the feeling is not the same. It's not the same as it used to be now. So, who knows? This is what you see. Farmers' headers clash or killings. Anyone who bears arms unlawfully must be arrested.
Oh, yes.
This is ascribed to presidency. Do you know there's something called citizens' arrest, by the way, in this country?
Well, maybe not when the other person is carrying a sophisticated weapon.
Well, if there's one person and there are 20 other people or 30 other people, citizens' arrest.
But that happened, was it in Delta or Edo State a few days ago with the court people who had arms?
We'll let them chew on that. Lagos loses 4 trillion naira to traffic congestion annually. Good, brilliant point, because we need to make, when you give the data of all of these things, it's good we know what is really going on. So that when you're in traffic, or when the authorities see that, they don't look at it, they don't wait a minute, this is time. Time is money, and time is spent.
But there's a traffic economy too, by the way.
Yeah. It's a huge industry globally. Oh, yeah. So if you look at that, you can solve the problem. There's so much benefit. And Mr. and Mrs. they're talking about Liverpool. I'll let you go see it. There's a lot on the back page as well. You could equally go see it. They all connect. That's a Vanguard anyway today.
Let me take 2 stories that might interest you on Nigerian News Direct. There's so much more, but let me take 2. The lead story, NNPC to partner stakeholders for $10 per barrel oil production cost. So that's the thinking. How well will that translate? Well, that should mean more earnings for Nigeria, but in terms of the price of petrol, who knows? As Silver launches upstream cost optimization, it's on page 3. But this one, right under that lead story, Amechi advocates long jail term for corrupt public officials. But there's a process to that, right? In terms of, the court process. So it's really hard to reach that, but that's a good one.
Daily Independent has this one. Insecurity may lead to ethno-religious war. That's coming from the Senate. Says herder farmers clashes may cause food insecurity. Asks Buhari to rejig nation security architecture. Emergence of inter-ethnic conflicts worrisome. Also ascribed to the Senate, President of the Senate. And right under that one picture is on the front page. Insurance loses over 6 trillion naira to non-enforcement of compulsory covers. Stories on page 4.
Yeah, there you go. So that's it with a look at some of the dailies here today. We will be back in a moment. Stay with us. Well, yes, we'll be talking about security, but don't forget that the northern governors met yesterday, and they were talking about these farmers, the headers, the killings across the country. It brought the northern governors together to find a way to put an end to the menace. And yesterday, the group under the aegis of Northern Governors Forum resolved to embrace methods of herding by ranching or other acceptable modern methods. And they had the chairman of the governor of Plateau State, chairman of the Northern Governors Forum, Governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong. He did say that the forum resolved to aggressively, that's his word, aggressively sensitize herdsmen across the northern states on the need to embrace the modern system of rearing cattle. So today we're joined by two gentlemen, as you might have seen there. Abe Agiole, former Commissioner of Police, Kaduna State, is also former Commandant, Police Mobile Training School, who will be joining us, from the States. We'll also have Lieutenant Commander John Danjuma, former Navy Intelligence Officer, who will be joining us himself as well from Lagos. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, this matter has been there.
Chamberlain.
Thank you. This matter has been there, and not that we don't have solutions or know how to address it. Yes, they may have been going around in circles, but this latest perspective from Northern Governors saying, well, this is not sustainable, something else. There's got to be another approach to this matter. First, how do you interpret this, and what do you see happening, having heard that pronouncement from them?
Is that for me?
Yes, for you.
Okay. Chamberlain, good morning. Even though I cannot see you guys there, I wonder for how long we are going to keep on talking. When I was listening to the governor of Plateau State yesterday, the 10 o'clock news, and he said 2 years ago they had arrived at a conclusion that we have to move from the primitive way of farming that has been on since the beginning of creation. I began to wonder, because at the end of the day, he said, even though they had provided the land, that they were waiting for funds, to continue. And I begin to wonder, with all the security votes that they have, which they do not need to account for, and with all the urgency, that we have in other parts of the world, or even bringing it down to the family setting. In the event that the income, of the parents falls, do they continue to live the way they have been, or do they make sacrifices? It is not out of place, for the governors to say, okay, for so number of months, I'm not going to collect my pay, just so that our people can be safe. So for me, it is so much talk and no action. And the more we move, the more we remain in the same place. That's my take on that.
Okay, so the governor also said, well, this will go beyond the Northern Governors Forum and move into the Nigeria Governors Forum, which is the umbrella body of governors in the country. And you expect that, all the governors of the 36 states will come together. We've had a meet in their different regions. We had Southwest governors meet. We had North Central governors meet on insecurity, now Northern governors. And you expect all these ideas to be aggregated. But this is not the first time they have discussed issues around security. In fact, speaking to the governors, they'll tell you, we have raised these issues. So one wonders, what is different, or what should be different this time around? How should they approach it? You think that maybe this is still the same thing, but at least this presents an opportunity for us to approach this in a different way. So how should the governors specifically now approach this? Because we have an opportunity here.
Yes. I was just thinking the other day, and I said to myself, imagine the difference between our native way of bringing birds, this chicken, and the way the science has enabled us to do that. The production rate, the number of birds you can breed, within a given period, is so much higher than the traditional mode of doing it. Now transfer that same thinking to how we rear cattle. Until we begin to see that it is not only in the volume of milk produced, because I think that whilst the agricultural type, the one that is science-based, produces thousands of liters, our own produces barely hundreds. So it's not only in the quantity of milk produced that you see the difference, but even in the number of cows, that are bred. I'm simply trying to say that because the cows have reduced, because of the traditional mode of system that our people have used, they have not been able to keep pace with the demand. And now they have sold all their cattle, all their cows have gone, and the only thing they are left with, no education, no ways of getting credit to continue, and no cows except the guns that they have. So they have turned the guns on people. So for me, the immediate thing to do is to ask ourselves, how do we protect our people in the meantime? If you check clearly, in the past few days, in Kaduna, for example, they have moved, in droves. They go on motorcycles, meaning that they could easily be detected, but nothing has checked their movement, going hundreds of villages, according to the former senator from that state. They have been going on a rampage, killing, stealing, and destroying. So as we have said before, any security system which fails to prevent the criminals from carrying guns must not prevent good people, law-abiding people going about their normal businesses from also carrying guns to protect themselves. It is not a matter of government coming in now. How many policemen do we have in Nigeria? Even if you add up all the military, the Army, Navy, and Air Force, how many do we have to cover all the vast expanse of land? Some people call it ungoverned areas, but I call it ungovernable. We are not able, with the number of personnel, trained personnel we have today, to be able to cover all the areas within the country. The next thing to do, is to allow the people, and this will even generate employment, for the security people, allow the people to carry guns to protect themselves. This is not a new strategy. It's not a new tactic. It's a way that people have survived in the past. When you know that people are against you and they will come for you at any time, you also should make sure that you are ever ready. And for that to happen, the communities, as we have said before, we say again, should be permitted and should be trained to protect themselves with guns. If not, this rampaging will continue. This evil system of allowing people to remain wide open for criminals to just block them at will continue.
We've even seen that it's been quite difficult for the government to even grant some of the security networks across states, especially the southwestern states, a license to bear more sophisticated arms. So you wonder how easy or how soon we'll get that idea of yours working. But so I'm trying to disaggregate this as well. So you have the governor saying we're going to do something, but don't forget they're heads of governments, political leaders, but we have the heads of security agencies, which you have referenced. And I'm looking at a case where each person does what they are meant to do constitutionally, not just in terms of sentiment and all that. So the governors would speak with themselves, come up with political solutions, speak with some of these organizations. But then we have the security agents who are actually on the field. Crimes have been committed. They're meant to be prosecutions. You heard the vice president saying bandits need to be prosecuted. For the vice president to say that, that obviously means there is a gap. So while you have the governors doing, the talk shop and maybe the workshop as well, what about the security agents?
Kayode, the Constitution really has got nothing to do with what I have just said. There are laws that are higher than whichever laws man makes. to ensure law and order in a society. And that is the natural law. There is no law that should prevent you from protecting yourself, either as an individual or as a community. So expecting the people who have been, as you said, granted the constitutional role to play in protecting the people, do not also have that right to prevent the people from protecting themselves. This is a very important point. I think many governors in the Middle Belt, have been saying that, particularly the governor of Benue State, he has already studied the situation. It's even just common sense to see that there is no way, the journey is already out of the bottle. There is no way you can now get all these guns back, from the bad guys. It is not possible.
Okay. Well, perhaps then, the task would be for the security agencies, just as you said, to do their jobs, which is that of law enforcement. We heard from a professor of political science saying yesterday that for the police officers, for the security agencies to do their jobs, there is a measure of political will that is necessary. For me, I'm still trying as much as I can to wrap my head around that. So let me ask Mr. Agiole this question. So it is the job of law enforcement agencies to enforce the law. Almost a no-brainer. But how difficult can that be?
Thank you so much. I hope I'm speaking to Clement. And I want to thank you for having me on this program. I think the most difficult thing we have is law enforcement. And for law enforcement to be quite successful, it needs a political will to actualize it. I think with political will, law enforcement would be made easier.
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand what you just said, that they need political will to enforce the law that is already in place. Okay, maybe you want to speak from your own experience. You have been commissioner of police in Kaduna State before, so were there times where you were not able to do your job as a law enforcement chief executive for reason of lack of political will?
Sometimes I want to think about one language. I call it constitutum historia, that oxygenated the laws. What I mean is maybe we can bypass legality and look at constitutionality of laws, the history of some laws. The question is, what was the intention or the intent of the people, the honorable gentlemen that enacted the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? What was the intention when they eliminated certain vital instruments in the establishment of the Nigerian police force? And I am bold to say today that when you look at two sections of the Constitution, establishment of the armed forces and establishment of the Nigerian police force, there is a clause in that of the armed forces. And with apologies to the lawyers, it says there shall be the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and it will include the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy. They shall be maintained and equipped by the Federation of Nigeria. They shall be maintained and equipped. Maybe it's an act of omission that the issue of maintaining and equipping the police force was omitted in the Constitution and maybe left for the mercy of acts or enactments of the assemblies. I think we should now face reality that we have a situation. I was Commissioner of Police, Kaduna State. And with due respect to Governor Nasru El-Rufai. Honestly, he gave the police maximum. Operation Yaki is a prime operational unit of the Nigerian police force in Kaduna, and it is funded and maintained by the state. And I think we should appreciate the governor for that. And we did very well while I was police way as commissioner of police. And with the crime rate, the banditry, and Mr. Clem, let's look at this issue of crisis. Even the headers themselves are victims of bandits in Kaduna State. I saw on the news the issue of Biringwari. The headers themselves, who are legitimate owners of cows, are victims to bandits. Their cows are rustled, taken away, they are killed, the way other citizens are crying. So it's a complex issue. And they look at the vast area of Biringwari, for instance, stretching from the Kamu forest to Fagori forest, down to Kasina, Jigawa, and the rest. You know, it's so vast. Even when you take an area view of these areas, honestly, it's so difficult to notice movement down. The military should be able to really, because that is their field. But honestly, I have the privilege of accompanying them to some of these flights, and I know what it takes. And when we say there are no forces on ground, I think it's a misjudgment. It's an error of judgment.
Well, if there are forces on ground and we are still having difficulty containing the issues, then there are so many questions as to the efficacy or otherwise of the forces on ground that you talk about, and then even the justification for the resources pushed their way. Now, there's something you said about the Constitution. I guess, you know, that's a matter for a symposium, if we can call it that. But this is not the first time we are having governors, the Northwest governors, the Northeast governors, the Midwest, North Central governors, the governors at the different, regions, and then all Northern governors sitting together to have a meeting and decide on a way forward as far as security is concerned. So this one that's been held again, is there anything you think will be different going forward? Having had several series of such meetings over the months, over the years, and this is where we still are. What do you expect going forward?
Let's avoid the modification of issues. What I mean is, one of the crises that led to the Nigerian crisis was a misrepresentation of what took place in Aburi after the conference. When the governors meet as a body, let them come to terms with what they intend to convey to the people. It's the issue of going back home and telling the people what wasn't actually discussed or your intention. What was contemplated during this meeting of the governors? What was their intention? Was it intended to actually achieve a result? Because when we politicize issues, we are politicizing human lives. I think and I believe that this conference or the position by the Northern governors is slightly different from the positions we've been used to hearing one state governor speaking one language. But this time around, I think there's unison in the Northern governor because there's a common threat. There is only one language spoken in this country. That is, only the criminals speak one language. Only the criminals speak one language. And I think if the governors unite in their own perspective, and I think we're going to achieve results. And I believe this is going to be different in as long as there is the political will to actualize this. And I insist political will because I was a CP and I think I am privy to see various states operate. And I'm lucky to work in one state, to be honest. And every day I give it to Malam Nasir El-Rufai, not because of his commitments financially to these operations, but because he gets involved in everything we do. And I think during my stay as Commissioner of Police Kaduna, I think I have cause to say we succeeded. And the banditry was reduced to a certain level.
If you take a look at the front pages this morning, you see killings in Kaduna State, different areas by bandits. So largely some of these problems still persist. And I think that speaks to what some are saying should be a rejig of the security and all of that. But let me take this back to Lieutenant Commander John Danjuma, who is here in Lagos. By the way, that arborification term, I'm still trying to understand, but thank you for explaining that. So, Lieutenant Commander Danjuma, there are talks about possible reprisal, and I think that's another dimension that this is taking that we don't really want to see. There have been talks about what these leaders are saying, the rhetorics being put out there, and you sort of wonder, so what should the tone be? Because it appears as though everyone is sticking to their ethnicity, even though this is not an ethnic issue. This is essentially crime. So the meetings might happen. What sort of pronouncements should come out of this? Now, let me segregate this from the government at the center, from the heads of security agencies, the police, the service chiefs, and the state governors. What should they be saying?
Well, is it what they should be saying or what they are saying with their actions? We must look at the roots of all this. Nigeria is a sharply divided nation. Nigeria has never been as divided as she is today. And we must see where we lay the roots of this division. We have emphasized, for example, that before you become the governor of any state, you must be an indigene of that state. If I remember correctly, there was a man called Umaru Altine in the First Republic who was the mayor of Enugu. How come a Hausa man, would be accepted to serve the people of Enugu, who are predominantly, if not all, Igbo people? So how have we, progressed or retrogressed in our way of nation building? By emphasizing states, we have even just mentioned northern state governors. So what signals are we sending to the people? How can you have a nation and then you are more Nigerian in some parts of that nation than in other parts? If we don't check these things, if we think that they are normal, for as long as we hold on to these things, how to build a nation is first of all to make sure that you are part of that nation wherever you find yourself. We must not emphasize ethnicity. We must not emphasize culture. We must not emphasize class. We must not even emphasize gender or religion. But all these things are now rife, are now blossoming, and we are seeing the effects even in security. That is why we say Niger Delta militants, we say Fulani herdsmen, instead of focusing on the criminal act of it and dealing with it, we now give it an ethnic color. So for me, even the people themselves that were expecting to come out, to speak to the people, if someone has stolen, everyone knows, look at a dog, for example, a dog that has gone to smear its mouth with feces and comes out and starts
in a way, this example, this analogy, I think it's going to be very, very delicious when we come from this break. To stay with us. Well, Well, Commander Danjuma, I think there is a need to segregate between the figure of speech of delicious and the fact of the things that you're saying. It definitely doesn't look delicious on any plate. But let me ask you this before we take it back to Mr. Agiole. There are three forces, it would seem, at play in this farmer-herder issues that we've been talking about for some time. There's a political angle to it. There have been several policies of government over the years, and all of them seem to be revolving around whether or not to progress. There is a security issue around it, herders going around with small arms, AK-47 and all of those things, definitely something of concern. And then there is the economic. There are 318 million livestock in Nigeria, according to figures from the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development at the federal level. Which one should we be giving attention to? Prioritizing.
Do I understand your question to mean that, can you rephrase your question? Because I don't have a clear idea what you're asking.
Well, from an intelligence perspective, if we are to take on this issue, the issue of this farmer herder thing that's been causing all kinds of security challenges, the political angle with all the policies of government and the political will that a good number of people have been talking about, the security angle, issue of small arms all over the place, and the economic angle, which according to government is something in the region of 30 trillion naira industry. Which should we be prioritizing?
Well, I think that they should go pari passu. How do I mean? If you check any man that goes out to, and goes out on a hungry stomach, maybe could not sleep because of the hunger and everything. So for me, you should really look at the economy first. The economy. Just this morning, I had channels on Channels TV also that because the cost of the oil that we produce, has gone up, that Nigerians should brace up, for more hardship. The economic school of thought, school of thinking, which is the Keynesian school of thinking that we have been following, has further widened the gulf between the haves and the have-nots. Recently, I had one highly respected economist, whose name I will not mention, say that printing of money, which is the backbone of the Keynesian school of thought, to encourage demand, has not helped us. How can you, in 2015, what 7 million naira could buy, with 45,000 naira dollars equal 7 million naira. Today, in 2021, with that same 45,000 naira, you need about 20 million. Recently, I just came out of a supermarket and discovered that I had bought greeting cards for 9,000 naira. 9,000 naira was about twice how much you could buy a Peugeot car. So we need to look at the economy, all the ways we are further impoverishing our people, the taxation system. Are Nigerians able to pay? I just recently recharged my bill, NEPA bill. And because I'm using a new meter, I was told in their office that this new meter runs faster. So I asked them, how come the meter is running faster and you are charging me higher? And I have no other choice, than to go. So the government must sit down and look at the way they are further impoverishing the people. A hungry man is an angry man. People who are hungry cannot be patriotic, And then look at also the political, it's even joined to the political aspect. If the people in government do not recognize that they first have to lead by way of the sacrifices that they are asking the Nigerian people to make sacrifices, we are not going to go anywhere. Look at the budget, for example. Even though the members of the National Assembly said that, okay, they have now further increased the capital aspect of the expenditure, at par, with the recurrent. But it is not from their own aspect. what is expected is for the leaders to reduce all their own perks, and perquisites, so that the Nigerian people can even see, to use the Nigerian parlance, gari to drink. But they have not done that. So we now begin to see that the politics, like one other economist have said, is state capture. You just capture the oil well, you capture the political aspect so as to capture the economy for your own friends. So this has to change if we need to have a security. Security, which comes last, is that, security, we keep on saying security is everybody's business. But when it comes to the practical aspect of it, we remove it from the people. There is no one who can protect my family better than me. There is no community that can be better protected by outside forces. The people, I insist, have a role to play, have a stake.
All right. Let's take it to... Yeah, pardon me. Let's take it to the former commissioner of police. I mean, if you say no better person to protect the family better than you, well, may raise questions as well for the agencies that are there. Could that be a vote of what? No confidence, or that they've got to do much more than they've done or have been doing? Well, Mr. Agile, when you talk about for certain things to happen, there has to be political will. What exactly is this political will? Is it that presidency, governors, or certain people appear stronger than the law? Law enforcement officers cannot arrest them. What is this political will? Let's understand it so we can know how do we begin to address and from where the challenges ahead.
Yeah, I think I try to coin one language. I call it constitutum historia. That is the constitutional history of certain laws. And when we talk, look, the state is propelled by the political class. The state is propelled by the people that made up the political class. And when we want to be honest, for laws to take its proper course, the key players must give absolute backing. And you find out that when the state did not give such force, it's quite going to be difficult for the police to operate under that condition. And like we said, when we said northern governors, I read from the news this what a governor was complaining about not Western governors not having a consensus in dealing with criminality or the banditry. They speak different voices, and if that means there's not consensus, and the police who is charged with responsibility of maintaining this law and order is in the middle of this crisis. So
political will?
Political will. That is the state willing to enforce what it enacted. What was the intention of the state? What was the contemplation of the law they enacted? Was it intended to achieve a result or not? Let's be honest. The question is...
Pardon me, has there been any scenario while you were in service, you made an arrest and then, they prevailed on you to cut that out or stop the arrest or something? Was there any such scenario?
Chamberlain, like I earlier said, and without contradiction, I was privileged to work under one leader, Governor Nasarawa, Madam. Honestly, I think he allowed our professionalism to prevail. And I think I never had instances because he allowed you go there and give me results your own way. And I think I don't have...
If that were the case, because, my colleagues also reminded you that the killings are still going on in Kaduna State. If persons that did their jobs without inhibition, why do we still have all these killings going on?
Yes, and I can contribute to this discourse because one, we're talking about armed banditry, and let's look at the topography of Kaduna State, the vast space Kaduna State occupies, and let's take a look at just Kaduna Abuja Express way, and there are a lot of villages and activities happening. Don't forget, this is a forested area. And these bandits, the only way we can effectively police these places maybe at distance of each other, station security. We have just 300 and maybe 50, 60,000 police officers in the whole of Nigeria. 300, less than 400,000 police to 200 million citizens. The whole Kaduna State, I don't think we have more than 6,000 police officers.
Are you then saying, Mr. Agiole, just a moment, are you then saying that, it's because we do not have enough police officers that we are having these issues that we are having? Because it would seem like the example of topography and all of that you are giving will be like just giving excuses for the security officers not being able to do their jobs. Now that you are raising the issue of the population of the security officers, are you then saying that that is the reason we are having the issues we are having all over the nation?
See, when you are formulating laws, you don't specify because factors contributed to these issues. There are factors that stimulate crisis: manpower, topography, finance, and everything. And don't forget, if policemen are not on ground, if the military are not on ground, how come we are suffering casualties in these areas? Honestly speaking, it's not easy for we to conclude that because policemen are not effective or the military are not effective, we cannot know. We look at these things jointly. And I think in the overall, like the recent issue in Birungwari and Kajuru area, honestly, when you look at the linkages of this vast area, no matter how you deploy your forces, that 5 minutes gap in between can result to casualties. And I think we're doing, the police and the security forces in Kaduna in particular are doing a great job. I want to acknowledge that. And
well, the thing about that is, Mr. Agiole, you may say they're doing a great job, but it's difficult for families who have their loved ones killed to be on the same page. Those who see these records, reports of these killings going on every day, it's difficult for them to come to terms and be on the same page with you. Many ask, look, so what has happened to the topography? Has it changed? Why is this still going on? And besides, perhaps we should also make the point. I mean, when you see politicians who put their cronies in police, we're inundated with calls regularly on all platforms, how policemen complain that a lot of their juniors are being promoted over them, so they are not happy with what is going on in the police force. So how can they get results in that kind of system if the system is not united? So isn't that a point that they made? Or isn't it valid?
I say there are so many factors that stimulate issues. The important thing here is when we want to shy away from the fact that certain things contribute to issues. Certainly it is, and we must do one thing for the system to function. One, not just reorganizing the police force. Let's look at how our operations had been and what modifications can we bring in. Are there people who can do this job? Is there funding for this job to be done? See, the issue of we have a lot of sections in the police force that ought to do the same job. Can we marry them together? Can we fund them and train them?
As much as we would like to continue, but I'm afraid that's how far we can go, because, I mean, there are those who will always let you know that if you want to address those other issues that you mentioned, they wonder, wouldn't that be building on a faulty foundation? Because if you put more people there, more boots on the ground, as they say, they'll be doing more of the same things that have been going on wrong in the system. So the foundation has got to be corrected first and foremost. There has to be justice. If you're coming to equity, you have to come with clean hands. If they're not happy within the rank and file, if they're not happy right there, how are they going to? If they keep putting their cronies in there who will be beholden to them, how do you get a police force that will be for the people? So these are some of the challenges and issues that we need to address, perhaps as many keep writing us on a regular basis. But we do thank both of you gentlemen, Mr. Abi Agiole and John Danjuma, for your perspectives this morning on the program. We'll be turning our attention now to a matter that we would like to see sorted out. We always do that, don't we? This has got to do with health in Nasarawa State. Association of Resident Doctors and the state officials are up in arms. We'll tell you why in a moment. All right, on to Nasarawa State now. We've got Dr. Ikrama Hassan, who is the Chief Medical Director, Dalhatu Araf Specialist Hospital, joining us from Lafia. We also have Dr. Joshua Moses, the President, Association of Resident Doctors, Nasarawa State. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you both for joining us today on the program. Dr. Moses, let me start with you. The ARD embarked on this 3-day warning strike. You say to press home your demands, part of which is unilateral suspension of the residency training program, victimization of your members, and the list goes on. But we equally understand that the authorities did reach out to ARD, your team, asking you, let us talk. But it appears as though that was rebuffed and you went on strike. Is that the case?
Channel Television, good morning, the CMD of Dalhatu Araf Specialist Hospital, Dr. Ikrama Hassan. Well, we were called upon to call off the strike, but then there was no offer on the table for us to call off the strike. Our demands were simple. For us to call off the strike, we should be able to have something at hand to be able to reach out to our members. This is the reason why we're calling off the strike. And one of the things we requested for was that there should be immediate reversal of the residency training that was suspended earlier by the management. So if we had that at hand, we would have been able to reach out to our members and see how we can call off the strike before it even began. But you're telling us to call off the strike without having anything at hand. I think that's not proper.
No,
thank you.
I thought they said, let us have a conversation and see how we can sort this out, because yours strike is a 3-day warning strike so that they can address the problem, isn't it? So what happens after the 3-day warning strike?
Well, we'll keep on negotiating. We'll keep on talking to the relevant authorities and the relevant stakeholders. We've been trying to address this issue even before the strike started. There have been quite a number of things on ground. Our members were not happy with what was happening. There's been obvious or clear victimization of our members following the action we took to protect our lives and the lives of our families and that of the public against COVID-19 virus. And because of that, our members were penalized and victimized for that action we took. And it's quite unfortunate that that led to the suspension of residency. That also led to...
All right, just hang on, Dr. Moses. Just hang on a minute. Let's quickly bring in Dr. Hassan before we go to break. Well, did they have to go on a 3-day warning strike? Because he says they've been talking before they decided to go on strike. So apparently you forced them to embark on the strike. Can you hear me, Dr. Hassan?
Okay, I didn't get the last part of your question.
Okay, I'm trying to see if we could do this because we need to go to break. Okay, you know what? We'll come back to you in just a moment when we return. So please stay with us. Welcome back. Dr. Hassan, could you go ahead and respond to that? Because, I mean, Dr. Moses, they say that they had been talking to the authorities before they eventually went on strike. So does that suggest that the authorities left them with no option but to embark on the strike?
Thank you, Chamberlain, for the opportunity for us to give our own side of the story. And good morning, my energetic ARD president, Dr. Joshua. Actually, we feel as management that this strike was preventable. It was actually uncalled for. What led to the strike actually was the action of some of the unions in the hospital. We are in the middle of COVID-19, and then we had some misunderstanding on how some things should be approached. And ARD thought of a particular way it should be approached. And the committee that we had that was advising the hospital did not think so. So ARD went ahead and suspend services completely. And it became an issue between the ARD and their teachers, that is the consultant. One of the things that ARD did almost immediately is to say they suspended all academic activities in the hospital. And academic activities are anchored by the teachers. So I have the communique from ARD that said all departmental activities should be suspended in the hospital. Then the other organization, the other union, that is the MDCAN, Association of the Consultant, came out and said they will maintain services in the hospital. However, they saw it as an affront for their students to suspend academic activities unilaterally. And they said they are no longer going to train them. So we, as parents, the management, we now came in. And remember, we're in the midst of COVID-19, we're having rising infection in the community and even within our own staff. We do not need that distraction. So we set up a committee. ARD has suspended academic activities. MDCAN has suspended residency training in the hospital. A committee was set up, and we are given 4 weeks. Look at the circumstances surrounding this suspension and counter-suspension. How do we avert future occurrence? And in their third week, and that is what we're telling the ARD. Let's see what will come out of this committee. It's just next week we're expecting the report, so that we would have a more robust residency training in the hospital. Within this COVID-19 period, we're having shutdown of services or withdrawal of services by ARD for the second time. We need to do something to protect our people, to protect our own staff during this pandemic, and to protect the people of Nasarawa that need to come to the hospital to access services.
Hassan, while Dr. Joshua...
it is actually an in-house.
Right. While he admitted that, there have been talks, and he said that they had to go on this strike because nothing was put on the table. That was the expression he used, that nothing was brought to the table. That's the impression we have. So you say that there have been talks, but he's saying that, yes, there were talks, but nothing was presented. So really, have you presented anything to them saying, well, this is what we're ready to do, this is what we might not be able to do because of these reasons? Have you been able to do that?
We had a meeting with them 3 days ago. This warning strike started 2 days ago. We had a meeting 3 days ago with the deputy governor of the state. And what he said, and it was generally agreed that you people were wrong in relation to the MDCAN. Apologize to them sincerely. We will ask the management to reverse all those decisions. And then in return, he also requested that don't go on this warning strike. It was offered, and they refused it.
Was offered was based on a condition, right? It was conditional. Is that what you're saying?
Sorry, come again?
I said what was offered was conditional. If you do not apologize, then you do not get this. Is that what you're saying?
It wasn't conditional directly, but we are dealing with people's lives here. And our decision was we have you suspended this training by yourselves. We didn't suspend it. And there was no thing to show that they have even resumed or they're even willing to resume. So we didn't suspend the training. They did it. So there was an offer.
Dr. Moses, I've seen that all of the time that we cut to your face, you were smiling all the while. Are there things you don't agree with that you heard the CMD say?
Well, as much as I wouldn't initially want to drag our trainers in, but then, like I said, this issue started when the second wave of COVID-19 had hit our members. Lots of our members were beginning to get infected. We approached the management as to things that could be done for the infection to be able to be curtailed as quick as possible. We approached them severally, but then their response wasn't satisfactory. Lots of our members were coming down with the infection. We, as doctors, were now becoming risk to our families. We, as doctors, were now becoming risk to the public that we are supposed to be offering help to. And because of that, and the management was not responding to our plight, and our members became agitated and then became worried. And that was what led to the initial communique that our able CMD is referring to. The communique was not to insult or to make anybody feel less of himself or less important in the management. However, it was to be able to curtail or to break the chain of transmission amongst our doctors and also among our members, the public, and also members of our family. And that was what led to the communique. But after which, we were called and then we were told that, the action we took wasn't so nice. And immediately we were able to call back our members to see how we can resume work optimally. And after which, we also had the national body speak to the CMD. And on several occasions, they had even pleaded on the action that was taken, even though it wasn't the nicest of choice. But however, this was survival for our lives, survival for the lives of our families, survival for the lives of the public. And I think that was at that time the necessary thing for us to do. And we had already apologized, not just to the trainers, we had also apologized to the management. And aside all these things, it's like they were just waiting for us to, make that move, and then other things follow simultaneously. Just about that time, the trainers went ahead and suspended residency, which on their own as a union, as an association, they don't have the right to. And following that, the management, who is supposed to be the moderator or the overseeing body, now went ahead and obliged them in suspending the residency training. As if that wasn't enough, they had to recall most of our members that were in training elsewhere in other institutions as far back as Kano, Kaduna, Lagos, Enugu, and all that. They had to recall all of them back. Mind you, most of these people don't have accommodations back here in Lafia. So most of them were called back and were more like refugees in their own training institution. They don't have houses, they don't have place to stay. Most of them had to be staying in the common room and the core rooms and all that. And I think that this wasn't uncalled for. And even at that, members that were also supposed to be due for their medical postgraduate exams were also not allowed to sign for the exams. If this is what we get for protecting our lives and protecting the lives of our members, and protecting the lives of the public and our families as well, then I don't see the reason why these punitive measures should be meted upon us for protecting our lives. And mind you, our members, our family members also now began testing positive for this same coronavirus that we were trying to protect our lives from. And the result of what we did or the action we took, even though it might be taken with a pinch of salt, but yielded great results. Since we took that action, the management can attest to it that there's not been that spike in testing, in COVID-19 positive cases in our institution. And I think that's a great win. And instead of the management or the government to praise us for the action we did, but rather we have been meted upon with victimization and then penalization of our members for a crime that wasn't supposed to be meted with such punishment. And I think that's not fair. I think that's not nice at all. We've apologized. The national body has apologized to the CMD and other relevant stakeholders. Other people have also came into the matter and then see what they can do. And up to now, there's been no fruitful or there's been nothing positive coming out of it. So I don't know what else can we do. That was what led to our members, the outburst of this warning strike that we're seeing currently now. It's just a 3-day warning strike. We keep on negotiating, and we're hoping that even though the ultimatum of 2 weeks is already up.
Well, Dr. Hassan, I mean, having heard him there almost 5 times, he said they have apologized. So clearly, it looks as if they've been able to identify, understand that, okay, well, it might have been an error to call that strike. Consultants may not be happy, but if they've apologized, and he said that several times, isn't it time that the authorities then say, okay, well, as fathers or consultants, professionals, we'll see how we can sort this out, because we need to think about the people who will suffer when all these things go on. So why are we still at loggerheads with this?
Thank you very much. Really, how this thing started is we don't have any problem with ARG at all. If anything, we want a situation whereby the training program itself will be strengthened in the hospital. I will not have a repeat of this within this period. A few months ago, during the pandemic, first wave of the pandemic, something similar happened, that we had a standoff between ARD and MDCAN, and ARD went on strike. That is not healthy for the system. And then within a few months, we are also having it. We are getting these things wrong in the way we are treating some of these things. So our understanding is we should come and sit down together to understand where the problem is, so that next month, we're not going to have another issue of ARD suspending another thing or going on strike. I wouldn't want a situation whereby today we'll just say, okay, sorry, everybody goes. And the real cause is not even known. What is causing all these things? It is true that the NAD had spoken to me, and I agreed quite well. It was NAD and the chairman House Committee, a Federal House Committee on Health. And the decision at that time was NAD will come to Nasarawa State so that we'll sit down together with the ARDK and understand what is happening to avert future occurrence. And I invited the NAD president to come so that we can sit down. And the feeling that I had is they asked him not to come, and they declared strike. And despite that, we were now called, we had a meeting. This committee that we had set up, it was to work for only 4 weeks. If we had wanted punishment, we would have asked the committee to work for 6 months. Just 4 weeks, and it is already in its 3rd week. So that we will know what the problem is. How can we solve it? How can we avert future occurrence? So we are all out for talks. Sir.
Dr. Hassan, just a moment. Perhaps there's something you said the other time, and I hope that perhaps that would help to nail the coffin on the problem permanently. Clearly, even from the very first comment you made, you referenced the issue between MDCAN and ARD in Nasarawa State. Perhaps there is a management problem, right there for the management of the organization to deal with, because if the two unions are not, on the same pedestal, definitely it's going to affect operations. Are there conversations you are having with the two unions together in order for everyone to see that we're all on the same page, working towards the same goal? And what are the challenges that you have seen as to why they are not able to work together?
Exactly. Now, this is a medical training program. And everyone that knows medical training program knows there is a structure. It is a relationship between a trainer and trainee. Trainers being the consultant and the trainee being the resident doctors. And so there should be a hierarchy. If that hierarchy is not, it's not like servant-master relationship, no. Trainer-trainee. If that hierarchy is not there, you are going to have a lot of problems. And those problems usually appear in people's lives, either in your health or in death. So that relationship is problematic. And we have spent maybe the last 2 years trying to bring it to focus so that we will correct it. The last time that we had this problem, we sat down with all of them. And we thought that we have overcome it. Now it has appeared again. That is why I even invited senior trainers from places where residency training is well structured, it is running very well. come, let's sit down together and discuss this issue. And ARD is running away from it and declared strike.
Meeting scheduled, or will there be anyone as soon as possible so that all parties involved can come to the table and discuss this matter?
I told you, we just had the discussion like 3 days ago, where I just said we had discussion 3 days ago where these things were discussed. And then ARD went on strike the next day.
Well, Dr. Moses, what say you on that one now?
Well, like my able CMD said, there is a structure. And when two unions like this, the ARD and MD can have issues, well, we are all affiliates of our parent body, which is NMA. And NMA is supposed to be the moderator in this case to be able to sort out whatever difference. But for the records, ARD as an association don't have any formal issue with MDCAN as an association. There may be pockets of issues with consultants and residents, but not as ARD and not as MDCAN. And if at all the problem has escalated to what we are hearing now, that ARD and MDCAN have issues, then I think there's a parent body, which is the enemy, that is supposed to come in and settle this issue. And
so is there any...
The enemy also came in.
Sorry to jump in. Is there any meeting? Because he's talking about the meeting that was called. So is ARD scheduled for another meeting with the authorities to address some of these issues raised?
Well, we're open to that. We're open to that because nobody wants... agitation has always been the last resort when there is any crisis, any form of crisis. We're open to whatever meeting for negotiations or for things to be sorted out as quick as possible. We just want the right thing to be done and then sanity to be returned back to the system. And our members and the public should also be able to get the best of quality care, health care that...
All right, gentlemen, we hope that all parties involved can indeed come to the table and discuss these matters. Whatever might have gone wrong, people at the end of the day want to see everyone working together so that it doesn't get any worse than the COVID pandemic has already made it. So please, we hope that both parties will address it. So I want to thank both of you, Dr. Joshua Moses, President, Association of Resident Doctors, Nasarawa State, as well as Dr. Ikrama Hassan, Chief Medical Director, Dalhatu Araf Specialist Hospital. Thank you both, and we hope to hear from all of you that all of this is sorted in a couple of days.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Well, speaking of an issue that we look forward to it being sorted, it's the planned NNPC protest and the counter-protest, which has been scheduled for this weekend. If you're active on social media, then you may have seen the trends ongoing. It's as a result of what happened last weekend when the panel of inquiry in Lagos, granted the repossession of the Lekki Toll Plaza to LCC. Of course, some members of the panel and a larger, member of society or members of society said, well, we're not having it. And then that spiraled into a planned protest, another counter-protest, and it's been back and forth, really. So this morning, we're taking a look at the issues. Don't forget, a member of the panel, a prominent member, Mr. Ebolo Adeburu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, has appealed to the protesters to shelve that planned protest, and he gave some reasons. But still, how well is that sitting with the advocates of NNPC? So this morning we're being joined by Mr. Tosin Olugbenga, who is an NNPC advocate. He joins us from our Lagos studio. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program. Now, for a lot of Nigerians, today is the 10th. The 13th is on Saturday. They're wondering, where are we now? What are the demands this time around? And how have you taken on board that appeal by the Senior Advocate of Nigeria?
Well, first of all, I want to say that the NSAS protest is actually beyond just a protest. It is now a movement that came about. And like you said, it is not actually the general public that is actually pushing for the NSAS. It is the young populace of Nigeria, most of who are actually active online. So one, these young people, they are already emotionally attached to the NSAS protest. So when it comes to their emotions, it means whatever they want to say per time, they are speaking with respect to their emotions. So we are already attached to that particular protest, and anything that comes out from whether the panel or the government in a way to, to subdue that protest or make it look in vain, we always have a counter effect. All right. So during the course of the panel have voted that the Lekki toll gate is supposed to open, and these young people felt very uncomfortable with that decision. That people actually died during the course of this protest, especially at the Lekki toll gate. And this actually generated global attention about what happened that October 29th. So when the panel voted, the panel is known by the law, all right? And that is where we have to draw the lines. The panel is known by the law, and being young people, the way they react to such things is to, we have to do something. And that is what brought about the Occupy Lekki toll gate planned protest. And, the way online things work is this: when somebody just put up any graphic design, any hashtag, nobody actually knew where the hashtag originated from. The moment it is out there, because of the emotion that is already attached to it, you want to open the toll gate, you want to step on the blood of those that are killed, and everybody just take it up and everybody keeps pushing. So that is how, it goes. But if you look at it the other way around, the panel is known to the law. And there was, it was actually, the opening of the toll gate is a reflection of the voting that happened on the panel. So there was a vote. Those who voted for the reopening of the toll gate are more than those who voted against it. So, and by the law, that is what should stand. So now, will the toll gates continue to be closed forever? Some people have the opinion that you cannot close the toll gate forever. Even in international communities globally, if there is a sin crime, it doesn't mean that sin is going to be closed forever. So that was what brought about that protest, that planned protest. Now, on the other hand, the counter protest, those individuals, okay, before I leave, by the virtue of the law that established the panel, that voting decision stands. And there is nothing anybody can do about it unless there is another procedure to either appeal that particular decision or... So the response is actually a protest. And if you go by the law, protest is also the right of the people. So like an individual, I can decide to protest every day if I think something is not right. So it is also the right of those who want to engage in protest to protest. Now, to the side of those who are countering the protest, that is actually a distraction to those who are planning the EndSARS, the Occupied Lekki toll gate protest. Is actually a counter and a distraction. Because if you watch the trend online, there are some ethnic dimensions already to that counter effect that, wow, you want to destroy Lagos again? You have destroyed Lagos in your EndSARS initial protest. And these people have failed to also put a line between the fact that those of us who actually engage in the EndSARS protest, we are so much intelligent beyond destroying properties of the Lagos state government as seen by hoodlums. It is not EndSARS protesters that destroyed Lagos state property as it is. So the Defend Lagos side of the story, they also have right to also say we want to also protest against your protest. And this is what will eventually happen. The police would come to the venue of the planned protest for the both of them on Saturday to make sure there is no protest that is going to happen, because they don't want any clash between those who are in for Occupy Lekki toll gates and those who are in for Defend Lagos. And when that happens, of course, naturally, that planned protest will actually die. So that is actually the fact of the matter.
Well, a good number of issues that you have raised, but perhaps the one thing that a number of people may want to find out, what exactly is your objective? You said it yourself now that you can't shut down a crime scene permanently. So now that this panel that, as you say, is known to the law, has said it's okay for the toll gates to resume business as usual, what is the objective of this Occupy Lekki toll gate protests?
Okay, so like I said initially, the Occupy Lekki toll gate protest is not as if it is a planned protest. It is a response. It is an emotional response by some group of people which, probably there is no meeting or any group coming together to say, oh, this is what we want to do. So it is an emotional response to that decision to reopen, the toll gate. And there are popular individuals, that I will not want to mention their names, who have it on their Twitter timeline, and when such popular individuals push out things like that, the followers would want to also tend towards that, and they will also make such posts go viral. So to those who actually plan the Occupy Lekki toll gate, I don't really know what their objective is, but from the analysis from the timeline, you would know it is a reflection of the fact that they don't want that toll gate to be opened now until maybe the investigation is completed. So members of the panel, like my good friend Rino said, investigation to what happened is not yet complete. Some other members of the panel also said it has been completed. So it all depends on which side the people want to follow with respect to that. So with respect to the objective, they are of the opinion that they should complete the investigation. Maybe to them, the panel sitting stands for investigation. So maybe they should complete the panel sitting, and there should be a final decision on all of this before they will say, let us open the Lekki toll gate.
So what about you? What do you want to see happen on Saturday?
This coming Saturday?
Yep.
Well, for me personally, I would, after the NSAS protest, I really felt bad when I drove down to Bega and I saw the buses that were burnt down. I had to park and, take reflections. And for me, I would just tell people, like, as much as it is your right to protest, we'll have to, come to some point of being reasonable, to look for more reasonable options to actually address these very critical issues. So, and for us to avoid loss of lives and property, we can actually fight, stop fighting, suspend the fight for another day.
Right. And like you said, I mean, the real protesters are too intelligent to destroy public property. So, I mean, clearly, the protesters, like you said, have a right. And don't forget what Mr. Adegberua said, also appealing to security agencies to embrace caution and demonstrate utmost respect for the fundamental rights of citizens. But I'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Tosin Olubenga, for at least sharing your thoughts with us and shedding more light on these protests and counter-protests on Saturday. We appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, then let's take a look at some of the comments coming through from you just before we let this go. Comrade Diary says, insecurity in Nigeria, be herders, banditry, kidnapping, and many other social vices is no longer news to us. In fact, it started long ago. Unfortunately, most people occupying political office in our nation lack basic idea of the world social contract.
Oh, yeah. Olaguju Daily Concept says the rise in insecurity is a kind of operant conditioning where criminal activities are increasingly being ignored or compensated by a negative consequence, which is called amnesty or appealingness. And this is deep psychology there. Tomorrow's criminals learn through observation, role modeling habits, and behavior.
From Akintoye Benjamin, tackling insecurity is a big project. The supervisor will always have one issue to correct. On herdsmen, ranching is the only solution. On insurgents, no to amnesty. It only breeds cash out. Proactive measures in silent mob up should be a daily routine. Malpai.
And Dr. Kremosa says, on insecurity, the move by northern governors is great. Let us create economic activities in the north to improve social relations. And let's encourage agri value chains in the north and build complementarities in other parts of the country. This will improve synergy and partnership in the country. Well, we have to thank you for your mails, tweets, feedback, questions, and generally getting back to us. We really appreciate it. Well, that's what wrap up the program. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Malkwe Ogun Yusuf.
I'm Kayode Okikelu.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day and please be safe.
I'm Chimbel Nso. We'll see you tomorrow.